thank you all and good morning. It is such a pleasure to be with you here today. And thank you to the Carers UK team for this kind invitation. And thank you, Carers UK, for being the voice of carers in this country for the past 60 years. Your hard work and dedication deserve celebration. It was an immense privilege to be elected last July as a Member of Parliament for the first time. I count myself very lucky to have the chance to represent my constituents in Mid-Sussex. I decided to come into politics because I wanted to make a difference and make people's lives better. That's why I was so proud to be asked by Ed Davey to become the Liberal Democrat spokesperson for Care and Carers. Because this is something that matters to so many people, and it's somewhere I feel the Lib Dems can make a real difference. It's safe to say that the life of a politician is really varied, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Sometimes it's actually quite a lot of fun. As anyone who has followed our leader Ed Davey's escapades, from paddleboarding to jet skiing, might have seen. One of the stranger things I've done recently was a photo shoot with someone who's standing to be a councillor. There is a classic photo that every candidate must have in the bag, which involves talking to a resident on their doorstep. On Saturday, we were setting this shot up. The candidate and I were shaking hands with the resident who'd volunteered her doorstep as the location. And you know what? It's amazing how hard it is to look natural while your campaign manager is standing on a soapbox with a camera saying, "Look natural." Erica, our candidate, said, "Well, this is awkward. What should we talk about?" And Fiona, who'd offered to help us, said, "Let's talk about the carers allowance." And in that moment, that was when the mood changed from light-hearted to much more serious. Fiona told me that she is in her 40s and has been a carer for over 20 years, first to her mother and now to her father. Her mum died a few years ago and her dad has recently moved into residential care. But 20 years of care has taken its toll. Fiona is exhausted. For 20 years, she has put her life and career on hold, taking work, usually lower paid than she is qualified for, that fits around her caring responsibilities when she could, and leaving jobs to care full-time when she couldn't. She told me how she was only able to continue as long as she did due to the kindness of two close friends who bring her meals when she can't get to the shops, have a cuppa with her when it all gets too much, and provide a bit of normality outside of caring. Several years ago, Fiona moved back to the family home to care for her parents. She told me that she thinks she must have saved the state millions in her 20 years as a carer. And given the cost of the care, I can well believe this. But her only reward is an uncertain future. The family home now has to be sold to pay for her dad's residential care costs due to the terms of his lifetime mortgage. There may be nothing left. Fiona is bright and capable. She has worked in the NHS and as a business development manager. And without her caring responsibilities, she would undoubtedly have built a strong career and be financially secure. But having chosen to care for her parents, she doesn't have significant savings, doesn't own her own home, has been unable to save for a pension, and has been unable to have meaningful and sustained relationships. And now, the inheritance her father had hoped to pass on to her to buy a small home may not be there. She is all too conscious that as she heads into middle age, her financial future looks very uncertain. And as soon as that family home is sold, she will be homeless. Fiona told me that carer's allowance is simply not enough to cover the costs of caring, given how much she has sacrificed. She told me that even £1,000 a month wouldn't be enough. And of course, there is no recompense once her days as a carer end. There is no safety net for people like Fiona. Instead, After 8 weeks, her carer's allowance payments will stop, and Fiona will be facing homelessness and an uncertain future. Carers like Fiona, and like so many of you here today, are such a vital part of our society, and I don't think enough people know that. Not only do you provide life-changing care, you also form a fundamental part of a system that, without you, would crumble. Our NHS is wonderful in so many ways, but it needs help and it needs change. If we want to have a better, cleaner and more resilient healthcare system, I and my Lib Dem colleagues think it is social care that must come first. With a good social care system, I truly believe the other pieces of the puzzle will fall into place. The more people that know that, the better chance we have of getting a fair deal for you and a fair deal for the country. That's why Carers UK's work is so vital, with their core mission of making your voices heard. And that's why it's so important we have days like today. Days to come together, to be a team, and to remember how important people like Fiona and each and every one of you are. While not wanting to detract from the celebrations, I'd like to share what I see as the 3 main challenges that lie ahead, and then some solutions. First, despite the government pledging to put healthcare at the top of the agenda, the Casey Commission won't report back on its findings under the government's timetable until 2028, in 3 years' time and just before a general election. 2028, in my opinion, is simply too late. Second, with so much political and media attention taken up with what's happening across the Atlantic in Ukraine or in the Middle East, it's a battle to keep your voices heard. And third, with an ever-growing caring community, helping carers to recognise they are carers is equally difficult and yet more important. But with that challenge comes opportunity, and I see plenty of it. There is cross-party support for change. And while we've had setbacks with delayed cross-party talks, I firmly believe that real progress can be made. We cannot change global events, but with Carers UK going from strength to strength, as we've heard from Helen, and with events like this one today, I am confident that the voice of carers in this country will build and grow, and I know that we Lib Dems will support you every step of the way. Conveniently, given today's theme, I see the key to it all as striving for equality. A society that treats carers equally and fairly will be better for carers, better for those they care for, and better for society as a whole. This isn't a big ask, or at least it shouldn't be. We're not asking for special treatment, we're asking for equal and fair treatment. Equal and fair treatment that you all deserve, and that society as a whole would benefit from. I hardly need remind you of your contribution to society, but I'm going to anyway. Thanks to Carers UK and the Centre for Care, we now know that the economic value of your contribution to society amounts to an incredible £184 billion a year. That's quite a lot of money. And it's quite a great deal more than that black hole that the government keeps talking about. So let's keep reminding people of that. I know I will. And let's get you a fair deal in return. It's because of the amazing work that Carers UK has done since its inception 60 years ago, thanks to the Reverend Mary Webster, that unpaid carers are where they are today. But we've got so much more to achieve. And I hope you will all leave here today with a renewed sense that equality and a fair deal is possible. Working together, growing the carer community, and making your voices heard, we can make that happen. I'm so proud to say that I'm on your side. So, thank you for listening and for all your amazing work. Enjoy the day, and let me now pass you on to someone else who wants to say a few words.
Hello, Carers UK Conference. It is such a privilege to be sharing this message with you today and to be celebrating the Diamond Jubilee of Carers UK. For 60 years, Carers UK has provided unwavering support vital information, and a powerful voice for those who care for loved ones. What an incredible force you have been for millions of people around our country. Thank you, Carers UK, for your tireless dedication. I feel immense pride in being part of this incredible caring community, and I wish I could have been there in person today, be part of the biggest annual gathering of carers in the country. Because as a carer myself, I understand the immense love, the challenges, the joy, the exhaustion, and the constant worry. I also understand the pride in the resilience of us carers, the compassion we all show, and the strength we find in supporting one another, and the real-life noises you can hear. I promise I will keep raising our voice wherever I can, whether that's in Parliament, on Christmas singles, or in my soon-to-be released book. Because when we get care right, we fix our NHS, our social services. I know that, you know that, and together we are making sure that everyone else knows that. So on that note, I will let you get to your conference. Let's keep changing the lives for the good of carers. It's so important. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to look at the people in charge and check how long we've got and whether there's time for any questions. Got 6 minutes, so if anybody does have questions, please put your hands up and I'm happy to try and field them. Yes, the gentleman towards the back. Oh yes, if you could just wait for the mic to come. Do you want people to introduce themselves with their name, where they've come from? Yes, if you don't mind saying your name and where you come from, that would be fantastic, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Mike Crabb. I'm currently a carer for my wife, but I previously worked as a volunteer at Carers UK. I think now we've been talking at Carers UK a lot today, quite rightly, about this whole business of the social care reform being the bastion which can hold together the National Health Service in this country and everything else like this. I think, like many people in this room, people have been talking about this for over 30 years. I can remember many years ago, way before Dilnot, I think there was a Sutherland report. I think what should happen is that after the next report by Casey comes out in 2028, that the Commons should be forced to pass legislation within a 2-year time span. I don't think that is unreasonable. It is one of the most important things that the House of Commons can do and have some input into. You say we're not going to be able to solve the problems of whatever it is, Donald Trump or whatever it is. Isn't it about time we put our own house first?
Okay. Mike, thank you. I agree with you. You know, my personal view is that waiting till 2028 for the Casey review to report back is too long. The new Labour government has got a 200-seat majority. In my view, it would be good if they used that 200-seat majority to push social care reform through. Any other questions? Yes, over there.
Hi, my name's Norman Phillips. I come from Stevenage. What really winds me up is I've been at this caring lark for 18 years. I've done any number of events, talking to MPs. They know the answer. Someone just needs to light a fire under them to get on and do it. We don't need another Casey inquiry. Yeah, the answers are all there.
Yeah. Thank you, Norman. And as I said in my reply to Mike, I agree with you. You know, Andrew Dilnot did the work, and there has been work done over many decades, as Mike said, and the problems are well defined and well diagnosed. But politicians need to come together to agree how they, you know, what they're going to do and how they're going to make sure that it's put in place, and it needs to come forward with urgency, in my view. So I'm very frustrated that we've got those timelines. However, I should say that I do hear very positive things about Dame Louise Casey. She's got a very, very good reputation. I think, from what I've heard, I've not met her yet, she will cut through a lot of this, and I'm really optimistic that she's a good person to do that work. We've got questions online. Is that what we're saying? Yeah.
So the question online is from Lucia, who says, will there be any thought given to a paramedic-style social service that carers can call for emergency situations, especially when help is required out of hours and at weekends? From their own caring experience, situations usually happen out of hours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lucia. So the question was about whether there should be a paramedic-style social care. So I guess if you're in a crisis situation, there's a number you can ring and then people will come and help. And I think Lucia's question sort of speaks to a broader challenge around the support that carers have and about the need for respite care to try and avoid people ending up in that crisis situation, the point, needing to make that emergency phone call. And I think if we had those things in place, those crisis points, the kind of crisis point that Fiona, who I mentioned when I was speaking, I think is probably in right at the moment, would be fewer and far a bit further between. So it sounds like a really good idea, but actually if we had proper respite care in place in the first place, I think we would avoid a lot of that. Am I done? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.